Armored Core Lore, Dan Morrow. A Lynx some would say is a coward, an overreactor, and a liability on the field of battle. This is Dan Morrow and his next Celebrity Ash. History. Dan Morrow, like many Lynx, seemed to rise from the ashes of the early Lynx War. His rating being number 28 out of 30, in Collard, however, reflects that perhaps he is not as skilled as he believes himself to be. In fact, it could be the reason he is independent, as reading the bio of this Lynx, it seems he has been reprimanded for a general lack of motivation that causes trouble on the battlefield, even before Strayed hires him. With such information, it's fair to see then why he acts the way he does when he's hired by Strayed as a consort, and perhaps why Global Armaments is the only corporation to offer him as a consort. Dan is able to be hired 3 times by Strayed during the late Lynx War, the first being on the mission Attack on Richland. Out of all the offered Lynx, Dan may seem like the best option for the mercenary on a budget, with him only asking 15% of the reward. However, as the saying goes, you only get what you pay for, and in Dan's case this is very true. For as Strayed will see that although Dan is eager to get into the fight, even quite boastful, the truth is without Strayed's support, Dan is quick to retreat. In fact, he leaves saying,
"Whoa! Sorry, but I gotta get out of here. This just ain't my kind of mission. You finish up, okay?"
Not the best first impression, and some Lynx will say this reflects Dan Morrow as a whole, a coward who is eager to show off his lackluster skills as a Lynx, only to have someone else do all the hard work. Then again, it seems even GA and Collard know his skill is lacking, as when offered as a consort, his bio will say, "Your average Lynx, performing as well as his rank suggests, requires ample support." If we are to take this statement at face value, then it seems to suggest Dan is what most Lynx are like, making it easy to see why arms forts are able to take them out. However, perhaps Dan is a case of making corporations paint all Lynx with the same brush, as others I am sure will say even Lynx below him, such as Miss Teresa, are more skilled. Nevertheless, after Strayed either clears this mission with or without Dan, the next time the pair may meet is in the mission Defeat Red Rum and Starker. Here, the boastful Lynx seems to be ready, in his words, to kick ass. However, as the fight begins, he is quick to suddenly ask Strayed to reassure him.
"What are you blabbering about? Do they ever shut up? All bark and no bite, huh? Don't you agree?"
Not exactly what a Lynx needs during a fight with 2 high-ranking necks, with one who likes to get in close while the other speeds around using a shotgun in a hit-and-run style of combat. Nevertheless, should Strayed shoulder most of the fighting again, Dan seems to be surprised to still be around, before quickly trying to sound more tough.
"That's it? Huh? I told you already, all bark. Backwater algebra Lynx, go home."
Of course, should Strayed leave Dan to his own to fight, he will end up retreating saying this.
"I'm done. This damage is horrible. How can I hit anything in this soup? Sorry, but I'm getting the hell out of here. I can pick and choose my battles, yeah."
Again, Lynx may point to this and say either Dan is using the battlefield condition as an excuse for his poor performance, or some will agree with them. However Strayed or other Lynx see Dan after this, the final meeting between Strayed and Dan will come in the mission Defeat Unknown Arms Fort. This is where it seems Dan's confidence really takes a hit, as before getting into the sights of the Sol Dias, Dan seems very sensible and human about the matter as he says,
"This is Celebrity Ash. I usually make a point of staying away from suicide missions like this. Let's not let our nerves get the best of us. Just take it one enemy at a time, like any other mission."
However, this quickly breaks down into panic when Sol Dias comes into sight, making the Lynx panic.
"What the? A Sol Dios cannon? Are they crazy? How the hell can we scratch this thing?"
To put it bluntly, Dan here is about as helpful as a chocolate teapot. His panic state leads him to be quickly damaged, making him panic even more before he flees.
"I'm pulling out! I'm pulling out! You get out of there too! This is suicide!"
Again, I think most will agree this is a very human reaction, and is most likely the way most Lynx would have been facing this deadly arms fort. However, should Strayed once again carry the pair to victory, Dan will finally admit that this was all above his head. After this, however, Dan will not be seen again by Strayed. There are a few suggestions of what happened to Dan, being the mercenary went into hiding after the war between Orca and the League broke out. The second is that Dan would join in with the war between Orca and the League, either falling back when ordered to, or dying against an Orca force. Yet, simply because the Lynx was average, does that mean Dan's next, Celebrity Ash, was the same? The truth is, Celebrity Ash is not a bad next, however it does not stand well among its Collard peers. With necks such as Wonderful Body able to take the craft out, never mind the fact that Ash will struggle with any next that has power behind it and edgy weapons, as this craft cannot stand up well to them. It boasts a boosting speed of 431 km per hour, making it quite the zippy craft, and overboosting pushes the speed up to 1,289 km per hour. So its speed is not the problem. What is, however, is its lackluster defences, and its equipment, which are all very average all around. Celebrity Ash's blade, the EBR 500, is as basic as a blade can get, and it will require quite a few swings to down other nexts. The craft's rifle, the 04 Anna, is again low damaging, with the focus on this rifle being more on firing range. Using it on Ash feels like a long and drawn out process, as chip damage is the key here, but if the foe is heavily armoured, you'll be there for a while. The Cheyenne 01 honestly feels very much like it was slapped on to Celebrity Ash, for something to fire if the foe is out of the laser blade's reach, and to give the craft some more firepower. As for the radar and shoulder parts, they don't really help Celebrity Ash, as the radar still will not help on the mission to defeat Red Rum and Starker, or in fact other missions. As for the Galantin 02, the part itself does its job well, and for Ash is a saviour during missions like Defeat the Spirit of Motherwill and fighting missile-using nexts. If I am being honest, piloting this next was hard work, and certainly one that could drag on if a foe is heavily armoured or faster than Ash. As the Lynx will spend most of their time with Celebrity Ash, firing off missiles and rifle together to do damage, trying to hit with the blade on offer should the foe prove to be tough enough, and dealing with energy as Ash does run out, requiring a rest behind a building to cover or fleeing before returning to the fight. However, that aside, what can be said about Dan Moro and his next? Both are very average to start with. Dan himself can be seen as a coward by some, but to others is the most human out of all, with his fear of death and blaming his faults not on himself, but other events. What I think can be said, however, is that Dan is not a Lynx to be aspired to. He is an example of someone who would be better working within a corporation, not on the field of battle. Here ends the report on the Lynx known as Dan Morrow and his next Celebrity Ash. Armored Core Lore, the allegorical manipulation system.